Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and for today's Christmas card, I started off with some Neenah Desert Storm 100-pound cardstock. This is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I used my anti-static powder tool, and then I'm stamping this little gingerbread man image from the Simon Says Stamp Christmas Squad stamp set. And I'm stamping it all over this entire piece, just kind of rotating the stamp and everything, just laying them out. My original idea was to first emboss everything in white and then color it in. And then I was like, oh, or I could do clear. That would work. And then I remembered that I had this brown embossing powder. This is Potting Soil embossing powder from Wendy Vecchi. And I was like, ooh, that'd be perfect. So poured that over and melted that. And then as I was doing this, I was like, oh, you know how cool this would look if you did this on gray cardstock and then colored all the gingerbread men in with brown, like colored pencils. And then it would look like they're on a baking sheet. My brain just starts like going to all the different ideas of things I can do. And yeah, so there's some more ideas anyway, but melted everything with my heat tool. So these all have kind of, a nice little glossy brown finish to them. And you can almost leave it just as is. But I wanted to color in all my gingerbread men. I was thinking colored pencils because that would just look really nice. But I didn't have time for that because it takes longer, especially when you're doing a ton of little images like this. I wanted things to be quick and easy. So I actually pulled out my Gansai Tambi watercolors for this. And this is just Desert Storm cardstock. This is not watercolor paper. But I didn't have any problems with this, but I'm also not, adding tons of water or layering anything. Like, I'm just applying color similar to how you would just use a marker. So it worked just fine. So I just have one of the dark brown watercolor pans. I just pulled it out of my set. And I'm just picking up the color with my water brush and applying it to each gingerbread man. And it makes it super easy because everything is heat embossed, so it has that raised edge. So I'm just able to quickly fill this in and then avoid the little areas because their cheeks have little circles and the little buttons have little circles. So I can avoid those really easily because they're all raised up. So this took no time at all to fill in all these little characters. And then once those are all filled in, I went in with black and added that to their little buttons. And then this kind of pinky red sort of color for their little cheeks. So super simple and fun to create this fun little background. So I just went along, filled everything in. And again, because everything's heat embossed, I didn't have to worry about like colors running into each other. But again, I didn't use tons of water. So everything dried really quickly too. So this was just a fun, method to do everything. And I couldn't resist. You have to add splatter to everything, especially Christmas cards. White splatter on everything. It's like everything has snow. So I took my Copic opaque white, put it on an acrylic block, and then thinned it out with just a little bit of water. And then just used a little paintbrush and flicked that against the edge of the block to create my white splatter. And then I just wipe up whatever is left on my work surface and stuff. I wipe that up with a baby wipe. I always wash my brush out. You want to wash it out immediately so that the paint doesn't dry in it. And then after everything was dry, I ended up die cutting it with the largest of the WONKY stitched rectangles from Simon. And then I pulled out, this is a previous release, the Season's Greetings die set from Simon Says Stamp that I absolutely love, just love. So I pulled that out, and I actually have 3 pieces of white cardstock that I ran through my little Xyron. This is actually the Disposable. It's actually literally Disposable sticker maker. All the pieces are recyclable, FYI. I had it in a drawer. I forgot I had it, but you can use the Creative Station Light. With the 3-inch cartridge or even the full one and just run 2 through at once, whatever. I just ran it through so that I have adhesive on the back of all of these pieces of cardstock. Then I ran those through my Big Shot machine with that Season's Greetings die. So now they're all die cut and they have adhesive on the back. One of the pieces I used Distress ink in Festive Berries. And I kind of started from the bottom and worked my way to top. Oh, this was all Bristol smooth cardstock, by the way, because I knew I wanted to sponge the one. So I used that because it just makes sponging so much smoother. So I started from the bottom of the piece, blending on that Distress ink and went from the bottom up. So it starts dark at the bottom and then kind of fades as it goes up. So kind of an ombre sort of effect. So after I was done sponging that, I'm going to stack all these die cuts together. So I left one of them still in the scrap of paper, and then I peeled off the second one and removed the backing. So it's got all its adhesive, and then I can just adhere it into place. So leaving the original one in its, you know, scrap basically holds everything in place, and I don't have to fiddle as much, especially if a die cut sentiment like this that's, you know, more handwritten and kind of on a curve, etc. It can be a little fiddly when you're trying to stack them. So this just made it a whole lot easier to peel out the pieces and stack them together. So I stacked 2 layers of just the white cardstock, and then my top layer is going to be this piece that I'd sponged. So stack that on top of the other 2 while it's still in its, you know, scrap piece. And then once I have everything layered together, then I can pop it out. And I've got all 3 layers stuck together and adhesive on the back, which is just way more convenient. So I peeled that out of its backing, and then I'm going to adhere this into place on top of my little gingerbread man piece here. And my little die pick comes in really handy for like removing backing and removing little centers of the letters and all that kind of stuff. So I got that into place, and then that pattern paper is from the Doodlebug Milk and Cookies pack that coordinates so well with this stamp set. This stamp set was actually designed in conjunction, like Christina Warner designed it in conjunction with Doodlebug. It was all part of a Simon Says their November kit. The stamp set though is still like available as a separate purchase, as pattern paper, etc., etc. I'll have it all linked in the description box below the video. So of course I love this stamp set because they're all little Doodlebug characters. So my cardstock for the card base, heavyweight white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. So it's a top folding A2 size card. I lined it up in my Misty and ended up just using the Distress inks to stamp the sentiment from that same Christmas Squad set. So I stamped the sentiment with the Festive Berries ink, and then I pulled out Gathered Twigs Distress ink to stamp the little gingerbread man, and ended up stamping it, and then I would stamp it off once, and or stamp it and then just re-stamp it a second time so I get the lighter and darker versions of the ink. And then I did the same thing with the small heart from the set, just to kind of finish off the inside, just give it some little color and characters and whatnot. So after I have the inside stamped, I can adhere my card front to my card base, and I just use my little Xyron tape runner for that. So I'm just going to run adhesive all along the perimeter of the front of my card, and then run some down the center there, and then I can line up this card front. The pattern paper I'd cut to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it'll completely cover that card front there. And as a final little touch, I'm adding some Doodlebug shape sprinkles. Again, this was the collaboration pack they did exclusively for Simon. I will link to the other ones that are still available because this was specifically part of the kit. The kit, of course, is sold out. But there's other packs for this collection with all these little like characters. So I added a little gingerbread man, little hearts and whatnot. And that finished off my card. So like I mentioned, I will have links below the video to my blog post. I'll have links to all the supplies used, so you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!